Hello everyone and welcome back to Season 2 of Before the Kickoff, your #1 source for Hawkeye sports. I'm Michael Merrick.
And I'm Max Von-Grease, and we're going to break down everything you need to know before the kickoff.
Max, it has been a long summer without any football. I'm just happy that this season is finally on its way. And what a better time than right around the corner from your birthday.
Yeah, Michael, celebrated my 22nd birthday today, and there's nothing I could have wished for more than to get to see the Hawkeyes play this coming Saturday. But here we are. The season is about to start. There's one big concern still for the Hawkeyes, and that's Cade McNamara and his health going into Game 1.
Yeah, the talk all spring and summer was about McNamara and how he could change this Hawkeye offense. Coach Kirk said that he believes that McNamara will play on Saturday, but that will be a game-time decision.
Yeah, Michael, Cade has officially been medically cleared to play on Saturday, and I believe, him getting out there, that's good for this Iowa team because he hasn't had any opportunities to throw to any of these wide receivers before, and I think that getting the chemistry down in Week 1 is great for the Hawkeyes.
I couldn't agree more, Max, and like you said, there's a lot of new weapons in Iowa City, so let's bring in DITV Sports reporter AJ Reister. AJ, what can you tell us about these new threats on offense?
Well, I can tell you one thing, Michael. There are a ton of them. The only returners are Deontay Vines, Nico Ragaini, and Alec Wick. Those are the only three guys who really had any playing time last year for the Hawkeyes. Everyone else is a transfer or a freshman. The depth chart wide receiver-wise has Ohio State transfer wide receiver Caleb Brown and Charleston Southern transfer Seth Anderson, with the rest of the wide receivers being freshmen waiting in the ranks right behind them to make their impact as a Hawkeye. But guys, Caleb Brown is an absolute athlete, and anytime you get a wide receiver out of wide receiver U, it's hard not to pick him to move his way up the depth chart very quickly. And on the tight end side, with Sam Laporta now going to Detroit to join his buddy Jack Campbell, it's Luke Lachey's time to step up into the tight end 1 spot along with Michigan transfer Eric All. And these two guys have the possibility to be the best tight end duo in the entire country. Luke Lachey last year in his limited time racked up 28 receptions and 4 touchdowns behind Laporta. And Eric All last year with the Wolverines only played in 3 games due to injury, but in 2021 broke out for over 400 yards. I don't expect All to have that good of a year, but definitely expect him to look more like he did in 2021 this season with the Hawkeyes. And Michael, I know you know that Kansas City offense really well with Travis Kelce. I wouldn't be surprised if Luke Lachey and Eric All almost combined to be Travis Kelce with this Hawkeye offense and have put up numbers like Travis Kelce does in the NFL and have a historic season.
Yeah, AJ, with the amount of tight end talent that the University of Iowa has, it'd be kind of silly if they didn't use both of them to their complete strengths. And speaking of strengths, everyone knows that the strength of this Hawkeye squad, like many years, is their lockdown defense. So let's bring in Aiden Wirtz on the sports set to help break down how Iowa has once again reloaded despite losing 2 first-round picks on defense.
Thanks, Michael. We may have lost some dogs to the draft, but Iowa fans can fully expect this defense to be a team's worst nightmare this fall. Nick Jackson, a monster transfer from Virginia, will join defensive end Joe Evans at linebacker. In no time at all, Jackson has worked in seamlessly and is hungrier than ever to tear apart opponents.
I'm excited to swarm. I'm excited to do all that. I'm excited to go out there with the guys. And, I'm very appreciative of them giving me the opportunity to be a Hawk. It doesn't even feel like I've only been here for a couple months.
There's just so many calls and so many things that you have to learn. And for him to learn that in a couple of months is just astonishing. He's such a great guy. He's so great to be around, and he's just a team player and a tremendous leader.
And no, it's not Godzilla and King Kong on the defensive line. It's Y.A. Black and Aaron Graves. These two might as well pack a sleeping bag and some lunch every game as they'll be living in the backfield. And Michael, we know how money this Iowa secondary can be. And speaking of money, these new Doughboys are fresh and fueled, looking to follow up on a historic season. Cooper DeJean, Xavier Wankpa, and Quinn Schulte lead the charge, scoring 4 defensive touchdowns together in 2022. These 3 will strive for nothing less than perfection on Saturdays.
Thanks, Aiden. We know that Hawkeye defense is stellar year in and year out, and you only thank Phil Parker for that. But Max, now we've talked about a lot of these new Hawkeyes and what their expectations are for this season, but we still haven't talked about the team that Iowa's going to play on Saturday, Utah State.
Yeah, Michael, and there's a good reason for that, and it's because Utah State is a very unknown team at the moment. The Aggies are bringing back their quarterback from last season, but he only threw for 11 touchdowns with 10 interceptions. Senior Cooper Legis was an all-academic All-American last season for the Aggies as he played in 10 games and only started in 8 of them. It's good that Cooper is a smart kid because Iowa secondary is going to be a tricky one to open the season against. But Legis does have a dual threat ability that, in years past, Iowa's defense has somewhat struggled against.
Yeah, Max, Utah State is looking to improve on their 6-7 record from last season, where they finished 7th in the Mountain West. But don't get it twisted, there are still some dudes on this roster, specifically MJ Tafisi. This linebacker was a stud for the Aggies last season, putting up 9 tackles for loss and 69 total tackles on the year, and that even earned him honorable mentions for the All-Mountain West team, and that's despite only appearing in 8 games on the season.
Yeah, Michael, that's definitely the man to ID on the defense.
For sure, and we're going to see if this alleged improved offensive line can make easy work of Tafisi. But Max, it's time for the fun stuff. It is prediction time. We're not only going to give you our scores for this week's game, but also an entire outlook on this season and which players you should expect to have a breakout year. So now let's bring back both Aiden and AJ and get down to business. We're going to start with you, AJ. Who is your breakout player for this upcoming season and why?
Fellas, I mentioned him earlier in the show, but Ohio State transfer Caleb Brown is a guy we all need to have circled on the depth chart. He looks like an absolute athlete, and when you look at the highlight reels on his social media pages, you can understand why. I'm excited to see him in the black and gold. He only played in 5 games last season for the Buckeyes and only made 1 catch, but behind such a crowded wide receiver room, I think it was a great move by Brown to transfer to Iowa, where the wide receiver room is fresh and looking for young faces to step up and be the leader in that meeting room and on the field. Now, Aiden Brown is my guy to break out this season. Who do you got for the Hawkeyes?
Not a bad choice, AJ, but this season I'm expecting Seth Anderson to have himself a year. With a father figure like Flipper Anderson, who played in the pros for 10 years, I think Seth is going to ball out in a black and gold uniform.
Both of those are solid picks, but I think you guys are going to love this one. Senior Sebastian Castro, and although he's currently listed behind Xavier Wamka in the 2 deeps at the safety position, I know that Castro will get plenty of playing time this year as defensive coordinator Phil Parker loves to throw in some nickel and some dime packages out on the field. He's a smart, hard-nosed player who just has a knack for getting to the ball and delivering big hits. He had 2 forced fumbles last year, with one of those resulting in a scoop and score for the Hawks. Utah State better have good pass pro, or else they're going to get smacked by the kid out of Oak Lawn named Castro.
I think it just speaks a lot about the talent on this Hawkeye team because no one's made a bad selection yet. But for me, I'm expecting Y.A. Black to take a big step this season. Black is now listed as the starting defensive tackle, stepping in for Noah Shannon due to the gambling suspension. And Black is just a physical freak. He's standing in at 6 feet 5 inches and 315 pounds. It's just a matchup nightmare on the interior, so don't be shocked if he explodes this season and is near the top of the team in sacks and tackles for loss at the end of the year. But now let's get off to those schedules, and I'll start us. I got Iowa starting the year off right by coasting through Utah State 27-0. I just don't see this defense giving anything up in this one, and Iowa can just hand the ball to Caleb Johnson every play, and I still think they can take this win. For the rest of the season, though, I have Iowa winning 10 games and going to Indy as the Big Ten West champions. The key wins for Iowa will be their visit to Lincoln, where they get revenge on Black Friday from last year, and their final home game of the year against the Fighting Illini. But the big losses will both be on the road, as I just don't see Iowa beating Penn State in Happy Valley, especially when it's the whiteout game. It's just too difficult of an atmosphere. And I think Iowa will also drop one at Camp Randall to Wisconsin. I'm not the most confident in the Badgers. It's Luke Fickell's first season, and it's hard for me to pick them to win the West, but it's also impossible for me to think that Iowa is going to win out after that Week 4 loss to Penn State. So Aiden, start us off from Week 1 and go on from there.
Michael, I see the Hawks dominating in Week 1, but still giving up 2 field goals to Utah State. This will be a big test to see if Iowa really does sling it around the field with their new weapons. As for the full season, I've got the Hawks going 10-2 like you do and taking a loss to Penn State, but also Illinois. As much as I'd love to see Ferentz and the crew beat down the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley, the challenge may just be too big with the sea of white Nittany Lion fans. Hopefully the Hawks can take the West and put up a fight for the Big Ten title.
Fellas, similar to last year, I wouldn't be surprised to see another slow start. Really fresh offense, new quarterback who has had some injury issues recently, and a young wide receiver core could see the offense stumble out of the box, but this offensive line is going to be awesome. I expect the run game to go crazy against the Utah State defense, and of course, the defense to do its thing and keep the Aggies quiet. Fellas, I got a final score for this weekend of 17-3. Now looking at the season as a whole, I got the Hawks going 9-3 this season. Same as you guys, Hawks sweep the first 3 games, then take the loss in Happy Valley in a crazy environment like you said, Michael, with the whiteout game. Then I have them bouncing back against Michigan State, but then I expect Purdue and Wisconsin to put up quite a fight. I don't know if the 9-3 record will be enough for Iowa to get to Indianapolis, but a couple of upsets here and there could certainly see the guys hitting the road for Lucas Oil. Now, Max, let's send it back to you. How do you see the Hawks turning out this season?
Well, AJ, I've got the Hawks winning Game 1 by a lot. The highest scoring game ever for the Hawkeye football program was against none other than Utah State back in 1957, where the Hawks put a 70-piece on the Aggies. However, I'm personally still not sold on this Iowa offense, so I'll tame it down a bit. I've got 24-0 Iowa wins Week 1. But somewhat similar to what Michael said in his prediction, I have Kirk and the kids going 11-1 on the season. Being realistic, the only difficult game is at Penn State. I don't expect the Hawks to roll into Happy Valley and get the dub. That I think that, it'll be a lot closer than what the experts at ESPN will think. So other than that loss, I have confidence that Iowa can make it to the Big Ten Championship with a record of 11-1.
Well, it all looks like we have pretty high expectations for Iowa this season. I think it's fair to say anything less than a Big Ten West title or a Big Ten championship appearance would be a very big disappointment. But now all we can do is wait and see if Iowa lives up to all those expectations this year.
It will be an interesting season, to say the least.
It will be for sure. So thank you, AJ and Aiden, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Before the Kickoff.
Be sure to check out the Daily Iowan YouTube page and website for all the latest on Hawkeye sports. And from the University of Iowa, I'm Max Von Gries.
And I'm Michael Merrick, and have a wonderful weekend of football, everyone.